Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Sharon Bown, and joining us this evening from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Commander Danielle Brodie. We warmly welcome Wing Commander Michael Garside, Vice President of the ACT Division of the Air Force Association. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and by students on behalf of Windsor State School visiting from Windsor, Queensland, and Belmont State School visiting from Carindale, Queensland. If you are able, would you please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Students and visitors who are able to do so, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Flight Sergeant Edward Jack Freame, who was killed during the Second World War. Edward Freame, known to his family as Jack, was born to William and Elsie Freame on the 7th of January 1922 in the Sydney suburb of Parramatta. His father was a telegraph linesman who had served in France with the Australian Imperial Force during the First World War. Growing up, he had two brothers, Bill and Clive, and a sister, Betty. Freame was educated at Westmead Public School and Parramatta High School. He was a good student and passed his leaving exams with honours in French and German and a first-class pass in Latin. He attended lectures at the University of Sydney in 1939 and passed in Roman law. He played rugby union for the Parramatta inter-district team. On the 26th of May 1942, Freame was working as a clerk in the Public Trust Office when he enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force, aged 20. His brothers also enlisted, Bill in the Royal Australian Navy and Clive in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force. Freame trained as a navigator and embarked from Melbourne on the 15th of January 1943, arriving in Canada later that month. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 RAAF pilots, navigators, bomb aimers, wireless operators, air gunners, and flight engineers who joined Australian and British squadrons in Britain throughout the course of the war. While training in Canada, Freame wrote home to say that he had arrived in the middle of a heat wave, it being only 5 degrees below zero. He also joked that the Australians were finding it difficult to move about with all the extra warm clothing. In June 1943, Freame was made sergeant and given his navigator's badge. He left Canada for England soon after, arriving in the UK in August. Further training followed, and in January 1944, he was promoted to flight sergeant. At some point, he became engaged to an Englishwoman from Newcastle upon Tyne. The couple would have had little time together, as on the 12th of July, he was posted to number 467 Squadron, RAAF. As part of Bomber Command, the squadron flew the 4-engined Arvo Lancaster heavy bomber. Just before 11:30 p.m. on the night of 20 July 1944, Freame and his crew set off from Waddington, England, as part of a major raid on the railway centre of Courtrai in Belgium. The squadron committed 14 aircraft to the mission, and Freame was the navigator of Lancaster PO TAC-E. Although the raid was ultimately a success, number 467 Squadron lost 2 crews. One of them was Flight Sergeant Freame's. The aircraft failed to return to base, and it was later determined to have been hit by enemy fire. In a nearby village, witnesses had seen the aircraft flying homewards at around 2 in the morning. It was in flames and had crashed 3 kilometres from the village church. There were no survivors. Also on board were British Sergeant Leslie Arcus and Australians Flying Officer David Barlow and Flight Sergeants James Abraham, Maurice Jones, Jack Olson and Robert Scott. After the war, research found that the Germans had initially buried only 6 members of the crew, and for a time it was believed that Freame may have escaped. However, the enemy had discovered Freame's body the day after his death and buried him with his crewmates at Korskirka. He was reinterred there under the inscription, "His duty nobly done." Both of Flight Sergeant Edward Freame's brothers returned safely home. He is remembered on the Roll of Honour at Marylands Park in Sydney, and his name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We will now remember Flight Sergeant Edward Jack Freame, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.